Let's bring in Franco Ordoñez and Ed O'Keefe in Washington. Franco is with McClatchy, D.C. He's White House correspondent and co-host of Majority Minority podcast. Ed is a CBS News contributor and congressional reporter for The Washington Post. Welcome to you both. Franco, let me start with you. We did not hear President Trump express confidence in Congressman Marino as the pick for drug czar. How significant is pressure on Mr. Trump and Congressman Marino to change course?
There's a lot of pressure. This was a stellar reporting by, Ed's teammates over at the Washington Post. Ed did some great work today on this as well. This was a tough decision, a tough day for Trump on that regard. He himself said he's going to talk with Marino. He's going, if he feels even in the slightest, he said, something negative that doesn't put it in the direction that he wants to go, that he'll make a change. He also said that Marino is a great guy and that he's going to review the 60 Minutes Washington Post report. So it does put him in a sticky situation.
Yeah, Ed, what do you think? Because our Major Garrett noted that it was interesting the president did not automatically call this fake news, as he has done with other unfavorable reporting in the past, that the president, in fact, with what he answered to Major there, essentially said that, there's credibility here and that he would look into it. That's a very different response that we've seen from the president on other issues.
And it's similar to the response he gave just hours before the Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price was forced out. So you wonder if something similar isn't afoot in this situation. Notable that Marino was nominated formally in September. His name was first floated back in April, but he had withdrawn from consideration by May, citing a family illness. And there were some questions about why he was doing this exactly, but resurfaced in September as a formally nominated drug czar to lead the Office of National Drug Control Policy. He has been sent to the Hill to be considered, but I was told today has not completed the written questionnaire that all nominees appearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee have to complete before a hearing can be scheduled. So he's in that point right now where if the White House wanted to pull him or tell him that he has to withdraw, he could, and there'd be no real significant paper trail behind him up on Capitol Hill. We'll see. I think part of the concern here is, look, this is a member of Congress, a sitting member of Congress from a safe district. He doesn't have to resign. He's been in office for several years. He's a former U.S. attorney. But as the investigation that my colleagues at the Post and yours, Elaine, there up at West 57th at 60 Minutes put together demonstrates, he was clearly working with the drug industry to get this legislation passed. And for all of the hand-wringing and outrage that's being expressed now, especially by Democrats in the wake of this, let's remember, nobody objected last year when the bill sailed through the House and the Senate. Senator Manchin, who we saw earlier, told me earlier today that, there were staffers in his office who had raised some concerns, but when they went to the DEA, the agency told him, don't worry about it. And he said he wants to go back now and figure out why weren't the concerns of agency personnel that clearly existed not shared more with lawmakers. I suspect that could become the subject of hearings in the coming weeks if Republicans consent to holding them. Remember, most of the outrage today is coming from Democrats.
Yeah, no, it's a really critical question, and we'll see what happens on that front next. Meantime, Franco, the president told Major Garrett he would declare a national emergency on the opioid crisis next week after promising to do so in August. What are you hearing about why it has taken so long?
Well, I think it's one of those issues that he's struggled to get ahead of, and this is something that you're reporting and the Washington Post reporting has brought to a head, and it looks like this is the kind of timing thing where he's got no choice but to face it.
Yeah, Ed, the fact is this issue of the opioid crisis is something that you've had New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, for instance, drawing attention to this issue for some time. Some are asking, well, what has taken so long to focus the White House's attention in this way that now we're having the president saying that he's going to declare this crisis next week?
Yeah, let's remember he first said in August that he was going to declare a national emergency. I think what was notable in his answer today, where he said it would be next week, is that he acknowledged it's taken a little while, but was trying to explain that in trying to put together a big plan like this, it takes a few weeks, perhaps months, to figure out what exactly could be done. Our understanding is that it could lead to the deployment of more medical personnel, that essentially some of the bureaucratic steps that have to be taken to either free up money or manpower to address this in certain parts of the country may get shaken up or made easier, and that may be what the administration's trying to determine before they take this step. But attempts to get more information on that have been fruitless, and we'll see whether or not the president indeed delivers on his vow to do it by next week.
Yeah, Ed, let me ask you about this legislation introduced by Senator Manchin to repeal the 2016 Marino bill. What are the prospects for changes or a full repeal?
Well, let's see. There's Manchin. There's Senator Claire McCaskill, who said that she's working on something that would just straight line repeal what was passed. You have at least 3 members of the House also saying that they're preparing legislation. Jerry Connolly of Virginia, a Democrat, Kyrsten Sinema, a Democrat of Arizona, and Brian Fitzpatrick, who's a congressman, a Republican congressman from Pennsylvania. The fact that he's involved in something with Kyrsten Sinema over in the House suggests that maybe that becomes a vehicle. Our understanding is that more details on it will come tomorrow, but they understood pretty quickly today that they should try to put something together. I don't think at this juncture, unless Claire McCaskill or Joe Manchin can come up with a Republican co-sponsor, that their idea would necessarily move that quickly. But you did see others, including Marsha Blackburn, who's Republican and running for the Senate seat now in Tennessee, say that if there are identifiable issues, they should be addressed. So we'll see. But I don't think it would move very quickly, given all the other things that Congress has to deal with right now.
All right. Well, Franco, President Trump stood alongside Mitch McConnell in the Rose Garden Monday. We know they have had a tense relationship since the Senate failed to pass an Obamacare overhaul. Let's go ahead and play a clip from the Rose Garden.
What we read, we're probably now, I think, at least as far as I'm concerned, closer than ever before.
We have the same agenda. We've been friends and acquaintances for a long time.
All right. We know, Franco, this media availability came together at the last minute. Why was it important for both men?
I mean, they're trying to rewrite a narrative that they are on the same page. We all know the challenges that the two have sighed, the bickering that has gone back and forth, the Twitter wars, the Twitter arguments from Donald Trump, the repeated criticism about 7 years, 7 years, 7 years not passing health care. Today, they're on the same page. Their agenda is similar. They're closer than they've ever been. It was quite an extraordinary day, actually, today in the Rose Garden, hearing them speak so eloquently about each other, such a great friendship. But, you know, there are a lot of questions about how long this will last. There's a very immediate need, though, that they need to kind of write the script here. Trump needs Mitch McConnell to get his agenda through. Mitch McConnell likely needs Trump to keep hold of the Senate. I mean, he needs that political support. But, you know, it's a real question about whether the two can stay on the same page for very long.
Yeah, I mean, Ed, what do you think? That was obviously something that the president felt very strongly he needed to do, is to show the photographers and reporters present that, in fact, their relationship is better than perhaps is being reported.
Yeah, they did everything but hug there, it seemed today.
Waiting for that, right?
What was also marvelous for those of us who cover Congress is that Mitch McConnell stood out there and actually faced questions for more than 5 minutes. He doesn't normally do that, so that was good to see. Look, they both need each other, as Franco said. Probably McConnell right now a little more than Trump, frankly, because there's a growing tide of discontent in the Republican political world, especially among top donors, that perhaps McConnell is losing his grip here, and the pressure coming from Steve Bannon, the former White House advisor, to come up with primary opponents to a lot of sitting Republican senators facing re-election next year is a big threat to McConnell's existence. This is somebody who has prided himself on protecting his colleagues when they face re-election. And you heard him say today that, look, you know, when certain people get nominated to be the Republican Senate candidate, they don't always prevail because they came from the political fringe. And I think standing there with the president, he was trying to say, look, the White House has my back on this. We're looking for pragmatic Republicans who can win races next year, and that's who at least he is going to focus on.
Yeah, pretty striking quote from the Senate Majority Leader. Winners make policy and losers go home.
Exactly.
All right. Franco Ordoñez and Ed O'Keefe, thanks to you both.